Bhagavad Gita. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamasravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashunmannuti Bisida Sadhanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajinivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Ano Divo Brihatah Parvatada Saraswati Yajata Gantu Yajñam Vagdevyai Namaha. So we saw up to, let me share the screen. We were at an interesting place yesterday. So we saw the verse that leads to the next set of verses, which deal with yajna and how yajna can be understood in a broader sense. So the Bhagavad Gita itself offers the vision to see yajna from a wider perspective. So he says, Gata Sangasya Muktasya Jnanavasthita Chetasah Yajnayacharatah Karma Samagram Praviliyate. So we saw this verse yesterday. So a person who is unattached, who is liberated, who is established in wisdom, he always acts in the spirit of yajna, and whatever he does, he is liberated, he is absolved. All his actions are free from the stain of the karma bandha. Then he goes on to explain the various types of yajna and how all our aspects of life are rooted in the Supreme. He says, Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. So Brahman is the offering, Brahman is the fuel, Brahman is the fire to which Brahman makes the offering. So Brahman indeed is attained by a person who is absorbed in karma, which is also Brahman. A little strange what's happening here. It looks like almost it's just a play on words. Let's look at the Anvaya. Arpanam Brahma. The offering is Brahman. Brahmagnav. In the fire of Brahman, Brahmana Hutam Havihi Brahma. In the fire of Brahman, the offering is Brahman. The fuel, the havis is Brahman. Brahma karma samadhina, in the established in, rooted in the karma, which is also Brahma. Tena gantavyam Brahma eva. They attain. Who attains? Brahman. So this looks like all the things are done by Brahman. So Brahman is the, it's like a movie with the multiple acting. If you remember, there was a movie of Shivaji Ganeshan where he did 9 roles. He did, this is also same guy, this is also same guy, like this, like multiple roles done by a same actor. Like this, Brahman is doing these multiple roles, and everywhere is only Brahman. So what does it mean? Before we go to this, let's get a little bit of background on what is a Vedic yajna. So he's using yajna as a metaphor. So it will be very useful for us to first understand the literal meaning of the word yajna in the material ritualistic sense. So yajna is a community activity typically, and it is conducted by somebody who is called yajamana. So yajamana, which a word which we see in Indian languages to mean owner or husband, this kind of lord, these kind of equivalents we find. Like in North India, they say jajman, or we say yajamana, like the owner of the house, yajamanaru, or husband, this kind of thing. So basically, yajamana is the one who is doing the yajna, the person who is the protagonist, who's the main guy who's doing the yajna, who's funding the yajna. In the other, when you look at the reality, he's the one who's funding the yajna. He is the producer of the movie. He's also the hero of the story, right? So yajamana, and yajamana cannot do a yajna alone. Yajamana has to have his patni, his dharma patni, his wife. So Yajamana and his wife will conduct this Vedic ritual. Now, Vedic ritual, this yajna is typically, it has three fire altars. One is in the shape of a square, the other is in the shape of a circle, and the third altar is in the shape of a semicircle. The three altars, the top portion is open to air, and fire, which is excuse me. So fire is raised in these altars, and these three altars. This one is called Garhapatya, then other one is called Dakshinagni, and Ahavaniya. Three altars, one for each Agni, and it represents, the number three has multiple kinds of significance in Hindu tradition. So it could refer to the three realms of existence, Bhuva, Swaha. It could refer to so many other things. Agni is a deity itself, Agni Devata. It's also the medium to carry our offerings to all the other deities. And many, many deities are invoked and worshipped during the course of the yajna. So then medicinal herbs, twigs of the people tree, then ghee, which is clarified butter, all these things, grains that are fried and then cooked, the juice of the soma plant. If it is a Pashu Yajna, then animals. If it is not a Pashu Yajna, then other grains and milk and so on. All these are put in the fire, and specific mantras are recited from the Vedas. So, mantra, like I said, is something which protects the mind, which protects the contemplation. So it can, like, one way of looking is manam trayate, but my friend Srinidhi mentioned that mananat trayate iti mantra. So it also protects the process of contemplation. So like this mantra is it also refers to the formative thought behind these recited verses. And there are different ritviks or officiators of the sacrifice. Typically, the 16 ritviks officiate the sacrifice. Well, we use the word sacrifice loosely, but it's not a very, very good equivalent of the word yajna. Yajna is more a fire ritual, which involves, like I said, these activity of putting these things into the fire and offering worship, reciting mantra. It also involves music and dance and sharing of food, a celebration, coming together, and so on. Now, this activity of yajna is presented as a complete metaphor for Brahman. So every element of the yajna is equated with Brahman. So the nature. So this verse should be understood as the all-pervading quality of Brahman. So if you think about it, who is doing the offering? Brahman. What is the fuel now? Is so like all the elements of the ritual are equated with Brahman. So it's one should not worry too much about the inner meaning or something of this verse. Basically, what he's trying to say is Brahman is all pervading being. So every element, every aspect of the yajna is connected with the supreme being. Okay. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi.
Brahmarpadam Brahma Havihi.
Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam.
Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam.
Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam.
Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam.
Brahma Karma Samadhina.
Brahma Karma Samadhina.
Thank you. Very good. Then he goes on to say, Daivam eva pare yajnam yoginah paryupasate. Brahmagna vapare yajnam yajne naivopajuhvati. So some people offer, they perform the yajna to the deities and worship them. And some people perform yajna in the fire of Brahman, offering the yajna itself. So apare, some other people, yoginaha, the yogis, daivam eva yajnam paryupasate. They, worship the deities. They worship the supreme, and they worship the deity. So devam here, daivam here refers to mostly the devatas. So the different deities they offer worship by doing yajna. Apare, few others, brahmagnau, in the fire of Brahman, yajnena eva yajnam upajuhvati. In the fire of Brahman, they perform yajna by offering the yajna itself. Now, when we perform yajna to propitiate a specific deity, we can offer something that the deity likes. We can offer something that that is dear to this devata. But when performing a yajna dedicated to Supreme Brahman, what is there to offer except the yajna itself? So, what is the meaning of offering yajna itself? It means everything that they do, they try to do it in spirit of yajna. So the literal sense is to offer everything of the yajna, whatever we do, every aspect of the yajna we offer to Brahman, which is what we see in the previous verse. But if we understand this from a little more practical point of view, they perform every action of theirs in that spirit of yajna, the spirit of sharing, spirit of worship with reverence, with joy, all these emotions together, they work. So this now you're going to list out different ways people do yajna. So he says, Daivam eva pare yajnam.
दैवमेवापरे यज्ञं
Yoginah paryupasate.
योगिनः पर्युपासते
Brahmagnavapare yajnam.
ब्रह्माज्ञावपरे यज्ञं
Yajne naivopajuhvati.
यज्ञे नैवोपजुह्वति.
Then he says, Shrotradini indriyani anye. So Shrotradini indriyani anye. Samyamagnishu juhvati. Shabdadin vishayananya indriyagnishu juhvati. So some aspirants submit hearing and other senses to the fire of restraint. Some others subdue sound and other sensations in the fire of senses. Now, we have to understand this metaphor clearly. So let's look at the prose order. He says, Anye, other people, Shrotradini, Shrotra and other. So the ear and other Indriyani, senses, sense organs. Sanyam agnishu juhvati. In the fire of sanyama, in the fire of restraint, they offer. So some aspirants submit their sense organs to the fire of restraint. Anye shabdadin vishayan indriyagnishu juhvati. Others, they subdue sound and other sensations. So they subdue the sensates, the sensations, actually sensates, the sense objects in the fire of sense organs. So what is this really trying to say? Yeah, excuse me. So the idea is that yajna is not just a physical ritual, it's also to be taken to the level of conduct, in the level which is a non-material, intangible level, right? So earlier we saw this physical act of doing yajna and slowly taking that as a metaphor. Here this is entirely metaphorical. There is no physical yajna here. What is he trying to do? He's trying to say that some people, if restraint itself can be visualized as a fire, they offer their sense organs. So what they do is they block their senses so that it doesn't come in contact with the sensates, right? So this is what we saw earlier also, how control of the senses is very important. Here, some of the aspirants, they cut off from the world by switching off their sense organs. Now, that's easier said than done. We have experienced ourselves. Anybody who has tried to do any sort of meditation knows how difficult it is. But people like this, they try to do this. In the fire of restraint, they're offering the senses so that it doesn't come in contact with the sensates. Basically, that's one group of people. The other group of people block the sensations, or you can say that there are two ways of looking at it. One is they block the sensates. So, sit in a quiet place so that there is no sound, or sit in a dark place so there is no visual, distractions and so on. The other way of looking at it is that they block the sensations from within, even though the sense and sensates are, encountering each other. So what Krishna said in the second chapter, Tam Titikshasva Bharata, Titiksha, they bring that into practice. And even though there is a contact between the senses and the sensates, they don't feel sensation because they have blocked it internally. So, Shrotradin Indriyanyanye.
Shrotraadini Indriyanyanye.
Sanyamagnishu Juhvati.
Sanyamagnishu Juhvati.
Shabdadin Vishayananya.
Shabdadin Vishayananya.
Indriyagnishu Juhvati.
Indriyagnishu Juhvati.
Then he says, Sarvanindriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyamya yogagnau juhvati jnana deepite. Some others, they offer the prana and all the actions of the senses in the fire of self-control, which is kindled by knowledge. So here there's a slight variation of the same idea. Apare sarvani indriya karmani. Other people, apare, sarvani, all actions of the senses, all the actions undertaken by the sense organ, indriya karmani, prana karmani cha, as well as all the actions undertaken by prana, the breath, the life force of an organism, jnana deepite, kindled by jnana, wisdom, atma sanyamya yogagnau, atma sanyamya, self-control, yoga, atma sanyamya yoga, which is the coming together of the body and mind and control of the self in that agni of the atma sanyamya yoga. Here we can also take yoga as the path. So the path of self-control itself is visualized as a fire. Juhvati, they offer, they worship. So prana refers to the life force or the breath, literally the breath, but the life force, the vital energy, sustaining energy of the organism. And without breathing, there is no life. So just a simple cold can cause so much of trouble to you, right? So prana is very important, and you realize it when you are in this kind of state more than other times, any case. So prana is the life force of an organism. And we have different kinds of prana. I will not go too much into that. But basically, it is dealing with the energy part of it. So because from breathing, we are getting some of the energy. From food, we are getting some of the energy. And the food is also converted to energy, and we are able to do our activities. Because without energy, you can't undertake any action, any karma. You need the prana for karma. So prana karma, the actions undertaken by the vital energy of the organism and the actions of the senses, all these things are submitted into the fire of self-control, which again means that their method of performing yajna is to control themselves. So here we see very clearly how a concept which is deeply rooted in the material world, which has a very deep, theological basis, which is ritualistic in nature, can be transposed into the level of conduct, to the level of practical wisdom. So this gives us a hint of what is the use of ritual. So when we are doing any ritual, these form the foundational basis for us to go to the next step. So unless you have done your first grade or second grade, you cannot go to the third grade. Unless you finish your 10th standard, you cannot write your 12th standard exam. So like this, excuse me, ritual gives us this foundation. And unless you know what is a yajna, unless you know what are the different parameters, it is so difficult to understand the metaphor in the 24th, the 25th verses, right? So I have to explain what is yajna. Whereas if you know the ritual and you have been doing the ritual regularly, then you, after that becomes very familiar, you attain the wisdom, or there is a chance of you attaining the wisdom, or you will be taught by the guru, you will be taught by this text to slowly transform, use the same learning in your daily life. And this happens to us very naturally, without, many times it happens to us without any intervention, right? If you're doing something really well, you've attained some expertise. Let's say you're a very good cook. You've learned over a period of time. You're experimenting. You're trying new things. You're a very good cook. Now tomorrow you want to learn a new language. You can use the same principles. When you learn a language, so you don't start, your cooking expedition by trying to make some tunit tengol or some very complicated gajar ka halwa, whatever, right? You start by making tea, you start by making coffee or heating the milk, or making a dosa, like very simple things. So like that, you construct very simple sentences initially, then you experiment here and there. Sometimes the dosa gets burnt, you don't, but the first dosa will get burnt. How the first dosa should not get burnt, you will try some experiment. So like this, when you're learning a language, excellent master chef can apply those learnings to learn a language as well. If you want to, if you are a very consummate polyglot and you speak multiple languages, you have learned many languages, you can use that learning if to play football. So like this, over a period of time, when we gain expertise in something, or when we become intimately familiar with something, we can apply those learnings to other things. So that's the role of ritual. So we start by doing ritual because it's very easy when you're young, and you're young in a sense, need not be physically young, but in the spiritual journey you may be young. So you start doing certain things that inculcate discipline, and which are taking your mind away from the mundane world. But slowly you can elevate yourself by applying this to your own conduct. So these are verses which are very, very insightful, that show us how this process happens. So he says, apare sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani cha jnana deepite, in the fire of self, in the light of wisdom, jnana deepite atma sanyamya yogagno juhvati. He offers this to the fire of self control. Okay, sarvanindriya karmani prana karmani chapare Atma Sanyamya Yogagno.
I think it is Atma Sanyama Yogagno.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Atma Sanyama Yogagno.
Atma Sanyama Yogagno.
Juhvati Jnana Deepite.
Juhvati Jnana Deepite.
Thank you for correcting me. Atma Sanyama Yogagno Juhvati Jnana Deepite. Then he says, Dravya Yajñas Tapo Yajña Yoga Yajñas Tatha Pare Swadhyaya Jnana Yajñascha Yatayah Samshita Vrataha. Some others offer material wealth, some others offer yoga expertise, some others offer austerities, and others offer learning. And these are the true ascetics. So here, Dravya Yajña. So here we have to understand, Kechit Dravya Yajña offer material wealth. Dravya is material wealth. Dravya Yajña. So that itself is like a Yajña. Then Anye, other people, Tapo Yajña. So Tapo Yajña is the offering of tapas, which is austerity, offering of their tapas, which is austerity. Then yoga yajna, which is offering the yoga expertise. Tatha apare, and others, swadhyaya yajnana yajnaha. So, Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. Sorry, Swadhyaya is like what do you say? Self-study. Swadhyaya and Jnana. So the knowledge, wisdom which has come from experience and serious study over the years, that they offer. Cha samshrita vrataha. So they are, these are people who are really ascetics. Yatayaha. Samshrita vrataha yatayaha. Bhavanti is to be understood. So they are like really, dedicated ascetics. Yatayaha is a plural of yati. It's like a ascetic or a sannyasi or whatever, mendicant, person who has given up or the material bindings. So what he's basically trying to say is anything we do with dedication, with joy, with sense of sharing, with a sense of celebration, with a sense of worship, reverence, all these things, it counts as yajna. So if we think that only people who are doing a physical ritual are noble and rest of them are not, here the clearly says some people they offer their material wealth. So anybody who is undertaking dana is also doing a yajna. Somebody who is doing yoga, whether it is physical hatha yoga or it is meditation and of union of body and mind, they are offering to this great yajna by their yoga expertise. Some other people, by doing their tapas, by austerities, they are offering to the yajna. Then some people by swadhyaya jnana, by attaining wisdom through study and experience and hard work, they are offering. They're doing that yajna. So anybody who is working with dedication is doing a yajna, right? Dravya yajnas, tapo yajna,
Dravya yagnas, tapo yagna,
yoga yajnas tatha pare,
yoga yagnas tatha pare,
swadhyaya jnana yajnascha,
swadhyaya jnana yajnascha,
yatayah samshita vrataha.
yatayah samshita vrataha.
Then he goes on to say, apane juhvati pranam, prane panam tatha pare, pranapana gati ruddhva, pranayama parayanaha. There are other people who are solely engaged in pranayama, which is the art of breathing, having regulated their inward and outward breaths. They offer their inward breath to their outward breath and their outward breath to their inward breath. So, apare pranayama parayana, and other people, pranayama, which is the art of breathing, the art and science of breathing, if you will. Parayana, the experts in pranayama, the people who are engaged in pranayama. Pranapana gati, prana and apana. So prana and apana. So I said there are 5 kinds of prana. So 2 of them, prana and apana, refer to the inward and outward breaths. So pranapana gati ruddhva pranam apane juhvati. So having regulated their prana and apana. So the inhalation and exhalation has been regulated. So it is organized. So they have a certain, when you do pranayama, right? So there is a certain time taken for intake. Then you hold the breath and then you exhale. Then again you hold the breath. So there are different kinds of viloma, anuloma, pranayama, and nadi shuddhana. So many things are there, right? So having regulated their inward and outward breath, they offer their inward breath to the outward. So they offer prana to apana and apana to prana. So pranapana gati ruddhva, having control, pranam apane juhvati, they offer prana into the fire of apana. Tatha prane apanam juhvati. So in prana, they offer apana. So they are, so the metaphorical thing, just like how they are offering in the fire of restraint, the fire of self-control, here they are offering the in-breath to the out-breath. So even somebody who is just doing pranayama is also like doing as if he's doing a yajna. So this regulation of just in-breath and out-breath. So one, if you want to do your yajna, like I said, the guy who funds it is the yajamana. So there's a lot of paraphernalia. It costs a lot of money. It involves a lot of physical, involvement of people. Many of them come together. It's a community event. Nothing can be more private than meditation or pranayama. It requires absolutely no, investment of any money or material thing. All you need is a place to sit down and breathe. We are anyway breathing, whether you like it or not. You're breathing. In that, you're trying to make some small changes, regulating your breath. Even that is an act of yajna when it is done with the right spirit. That's what he's trying to say in this verse. So, apane juhvati pranam.
Apane juhvati pranam.
प्राणे पानम तथा परे.
प्राणे पानम तथा परे.
प्राणापान गति रुद्ध्वा.
प्राणापान गति रुद्ध्वा.
प्राणायाम परायणाः.
प्राणायाम परायणाः.
Then he says, apare niyataharaha प्राणान प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपित कल्मषाः. Other people, they restrain their diet and offer their prana to their prana. And all of them, they know the way of yajna, and their papas are cleansed by doing yajna. Apare niyata ahara, niyataharaha. They are controlling, restraining their diet. Pranan praneshu juhvati. So they offer their prana to their prana, which is basically a sense of they are, whatever they are doing with prana, they are very dedicated. So even the breathing, the process of breathing is done with dedication. And when you're restraining your diet, you don't have any, you don't have anything to eat. So the food is prana, the one consuming is prana. So that's also something in this verse. And is ete sarve api yajna vidaha. All of them are yajna vidaha. So they are knowers of yajna. They know yajna. And yajna kshapita kalmashaha. And all their papas are cleansed by yajna. Yajna kshapita kalmashaha. Kalmashaha, all the evils are cleansed by the performance of yajna. So when he says ete sarve, it means all. We have seen all these kind of people, right? Starting from the 25th verse, who perform yajna in the fire of Brahman, offering the Brahman itself. Then some of them, they perform yajna to the deities. And some of them restrain their sense organs, the sensates, the sensations. Then some of them offer the prana and all the actions of the senses. Then some people offer material wealth, yoga expertise, austerity, and their learning. Some people offer pranayama, all these people. So he says, ete sarve api yajna vidaha. Anybody who is working with dedication knows yajna. And that yajna will serve to cleanse all their papas. So a person who performs, like in this particular case, so people who perform tapas, what is the meaning of, tapas, or what is the meaning of mindful living? It just basically means we try to consume less. The less we consume, the more ecological friendly, the more valuable we become to the world. If we are consuming less. So when consuming less, one is of course physically, like food, but anything they are reducing their consumption. And when the food intake reduces, their need for other things also reduces. The bodily functions slow down. That's why people in deep meditation, like when even like Ramana Maharshi and all that, when he went away from his house, he was sitting in the cave, or in some caves, and in the depths of certain temple, without any food for months together, and was having no awareness of the body, just meditating. Because when we are reducing the intake of the food, the need for the oxygen and other thing to burn that food is reduced. Bodily functions slow down, and they augment this by mindful breathing, by meditation, by single-minded focus on some internal thing. So it is possible to sustain the body for a long time without external dependencies. So when the people restrain their diet, when he says niyataharaha, controlling the ahara, controlling what we consume in a general sense, then you don't need any equipment to perform yajna. So just breathing. So here, after a nice meal, meditation is one thing. Without having your meal to meditate is another thing. Because at least one part of your worries are taken care. Your hunger is taken care. Your thirst is taken care. Now you can focus on meditation. When even hunger and thirst persist, you are meditating. That is even more harder, right? So in this way, he talks about all the various means by which we can perform yajna, which is working in a dedicated manner. Apare niyataharaha
अपरे नियताहाराः
प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति
प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति
सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदो
सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदो
यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः.
यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः.
Then he says yajna shishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostya ayajnasya kutonya kurusattama. So relishing the remnants of yajna, which is amrita, the performers of yajna attain the eternal Brahman. And those who don't perform any yajna are unfit even for this world. How can they enter the other world? So Kurusattama, which is the best of Kurus, the greatest of Kurus, which is addressing Arjuna. Yajna Shishtamrita Bhujaha. Yajna Shishta, the remnants of Yajna, Amrita Bhujaha. The remnants of Yajna itself is Amrita, which is equal to the elixir of immortality. And having consumed that, they relish that. Sanatanam Brahma Yanti. They attain the eternal Brahman. Ayajnasya ayam lokaha na asti. Without yajna, those who don't perform yajna, ayam lokaha na asti. Even this world, they are not fit. Anyaha kutaha. What to say about the other words? So na asti means they are not there, literally, but we have to understand it as they are not fit for even this world. So the idea here is that there are some people who devote their life to do what they like and what is aligned to them, their swadharma, etc., and not bothering about putting, what rewards they're going to get. They don't worry about, they don't, have their eye on the results. They don't have their eye on the rewards. They're not bothered about that. They are just doing it for the sake of karma itself. The idea is we must pursue at least a few activities with this spirit of yajna. We cannot, if we can do everything in spirit of yajna, it's fantastic. But we can't do that. It's difficult. Not everybody can do that. So we try to do at least something for the joy of doing it, for the sake of that action. If we do everything in our life motivated by certain end goal, then our life will become very, very mechanical, very dull. And this sort of dullness never leads to perfection or happiness. It is only when somebody can transcend, go beyond this kind of rat race, right? You're chasing after a certain thing. That's okay. Everybody does that. But if you can go beyond that, even for a little bit of time, even for a few days, even for at some places, then you feel fulfilled. Now, if you're going to the temple, let's say you go to some devalaya near your house, and you like the environment, you like the trees, you like the ancient monument, you're sitting there and having a nice time. That is one thing, one way of looking at it. Other thing is you go directly to the Garbhagudi and start praying, oh, I hope I get good marks, I hope I get money, I hope I get a good thing. And the whole objective of going to the Devalaya is to go and put all your petitions in front of the deity. So please do this for me, please do that. I will break coconut, I will do this, I will do some harake. Both these things are legitimate, right? People do both these things. You see people who are going there to the temple to meet their friends or to spend some time and to just cut off from the rest of the world, and other people who are going there also for some material purpose, which is fine. Later we'll see the different types of devotees. Krishna says the different types of people who worship the Supreme. But anybody who can go and spend some time without any other worries, the chances will be they are more peaceful as compared to somebody who's constantly craving for certain rewards. So we say, oh, targeted, you work with smart goals and focus, and it's fine. But at least something in your daily routine, or at least once in a month, or once a fortnight, once in some period of time, you spend your time doing something just for the sake of doing that, nothing else. The joy of the process itself. And if people don't do anything with the spirit of yajna, then it's almost like they are not fit for this world. It's almost like they are causing trouble to themselves. They are causing trouble to others. So people who don't have the spirit of dedication, the spirit of service and celebration, they are a burden on themselves. They are a burden on their family. They are a burden on earth, right? So you don't want to be this kind of person. You want to be somebody who is at least doing something in the spirit of yajna. So yajna shishtamrita bhujo
Yagnashishtamruthabhujo
yanti brahma sanatanam
yanti brahma sanatanam
nayam lokostyayajnasya
nayam lokostya yagnasya
kutonyah kurusattama.
kutonyah kurusattama.
So lokosti ayagnyasya. So loka asti ayagnyasya. So that combination little tricky. Nayam lokosti ayagnyasya kutonya kurusattama. Then he says, evam bahuvida yajna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam nyatva vimokshase. So therefore, there are many kinds of yajnas described in the various scriptures, and all these yajnas are rooted in karma and rooted in action. And only when you know this, you will be free. So he says, evam, thus, bahuvidaha yajnaha, variety of yajna, multitude of yajnas, brahmana mukhe, from the mouth of the Brahman, vitata. So this have been described in the scriptures. This have been delineated that there are multiple kinds of yajna, and they have come. So the idea is that when we say brahmana mukhe, it basically refers to the scriptures, because the belief is the Vedas came from the mouth of Brahman, the mouth of Brahma also. The Brahma is always chanting Veda. So the Brahmana Mukhe basically refers to Veda, right? So evam bahuvida yajnaha Brahmana Mukhe vitata. So thus many kinds of yajna have been described in the Vedas, in the scriptures, in the various texts. Tan sarvan karmajan vidhi. Tan sarvan, all of them, karmajan. They are all born in karma. They are all rooted in action. Know this, vidhi. Evam nyatva vimokshase. Having learned this, knowing this, you will be free. You will attain mukti. So when we grasp the larger scheme of things, then we begin to do our actions with some spirit of selflessness. And that spirit of selflessness breaks all these bonds and leads us to freedom, right? So, like I said, this notion of having a bigger dream, this the example I gave yesterday before the close of the class, with three people, one of them is lifting bricks, another one says, I'm earning a livelihood, the third person says, I am building a grand temple. When you are working with that bigger purpose, naturally everything you do will will be different, will be done with a certain focus, with a certain dedication. Right? Even let's say, for example, you're a software engineer and you're writing a code, some code, and there is a certain amount of flexibility, certain amount of leeway you take when you write code. Now, let us say you are told that this code you're working on is a part of a bigger code, which is going to be used for your country's defense. And if you make a mistake in this, there could be a loophole in the defense of your country, and there could be some trouble in one part of your country. No, automatically the seriousness with which you will take up this activity, the same, you're writing the same code, whether it's in Java or Python or whatever, but you will start doing it with a very different sense of purpose. Whereas if you know, for example, that the team you're working on, at the end of 3 months, they just have the money to run the team for 3 months, and then they're going to close down the team. Whatever work you do is just going to be a waste. You're getting your salary, you're doing this work, but you will start doing this with complete sense of carelessness. Anyway, they're going to close my account. It doesn't matter. They're making me work for 3 months because they're paying salary. So whether I write this code well, whether I include the comments for the code, whether I write a beautiful code, none of this is going to matter. So I will just do something and check the, tick the check boxes. So the same activity, the same thing you're doing, when you're doing it with this attitude of a larger purpose, that I am a very important I have a very important place in the larger scheme of things. We do it with a different sense of purpose, and when we know that it's anyway going to go down the drain, we say, okay, fine, let's just do it and get done with it. The wise person is one who will do this work with sincerity and focus and enjoyment, irrespective of the outside thing. So that is hard, right? Naturally, we are swayed by externals. So therefore, it's important to try and understand this larger purpose, understand the the bigger picture. That's what he's trying to say. Evam bahuvidha yajna
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा
vitata brahmano mukhe
वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे
कर्मजान विद्धितान सर्वान
कर्मजान् विद्धि तान् सर्वान्
एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे.
एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे.
Okay, so there are some questions. I'll come to that in a bit. So then he goes on to say, Shreyan dravyamaya yajnat yajnajnana yajna parantapa sarvam karmakhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. So pursuing knowledge, pursuing jnana is superior to any ritual with material offerings, because all activities find their fulfillment only in jnana, only in knowledge. So he says, Parantapa, dravyamaya, dravyamayat yajnat. So dravyamaya, which is pervaded by material aspect. Dravya is material. So dravyamayat yajnat. Jnana yajna shriyan. So much more than any material yajna, any ritual with material offerings, Jnana Yajna is better, Shriyan is superior. Jnana Yajna Shriyan. Partha Sarvam, what is this? 1 second. Sarvam Karma. So Sarvam Karma Jnane Akhilam Parisamapyate. So Sarvam, everything. Sarvam karma, all action, jnane akhilam parisamapyate. All action finally find their fulfillment in jnana, in knowledge. So any material ritual, so that he's not putting down material ritual, he's saying that all these rituals have their place. However, these rituals must finally culminate in jnana, must culminate in knowledge. They find their fulfillment in knowledge. Therefore, pursuing knowledge is superior, because rituals are means to wisdom, a means to knowledge. So therefore, what is the ultimate thing you are gaining will be superior to what the steps you're taken to reach there, right? So these are like this, like a staircase. So this is the way to that. So without this, it is very difficult to reach. Not everybody can do a jump like a Spider-Man or something, jump to the top of a building. So for most of us, we need the staircase, we need the steps. But the steps are not as important as the destination. So destination is greater than the steps. So this is again very valuable verse, because he's time and again, when he, even in the second chapter, when he says yavanarthodapane sarvata samplutodake, when there is a flood and water is flowing freely everywhere, what is the use of a well of water? Similarly, when somebody has brahmajnana, what is the use of Veda and any of these things? So therefore, he is not belittling Veda. He is saying that when you have the ultimate, this becomes very superfluous. When you have a flood, well is superfluous. If there is no flood, if there is no rain, well is the only source for you, right? Similarly, here when we see that the steps, whatever are there to reach yajna, are very important, without which it's very difficult for most people. However, one should not be fooled into thinking that steps are more important than the final answer, the final destination. Correct? So, Shreyan Dravyamayad Yagnat
Shreyan Dravyamayad Yagnat
Jnana Yajna Parantapa
Jnana Yagna Parantapa
Sarvam Karmakhilam Partha
Sarvam Karmakhilam Partha
Jnane Parisamapyate.
Jnane Parisamapyate.
So they find fulfillment, samapti, the all-round, parisamapti is all-round fulfillment. When we use the upasarga pari, it means something from all sides. So parisamapyate, if they find fulfillment from all sides, ultimately, whatever path you take, you ultimately land up in jnana, in wisdom. Then famous verse, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Learn that knowledge, the knowledge which he's talking about, all the activities find fulfillment in knowledge. Learn that knowledge from those who have realized the truth. Approach them with a spirit of sincere inquiry and serve them with humility. They will impart that knowledge to you. Very beautiful verse. Again, one of those classic verses in Gita, which is self-contained and cover all the different aspects in just 4 lines. Is that pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya cha vidhi. So learn that. What do you learn? That which is the knowledge. How do you learn? Pranipatena. That is by approaching them with a sense of sincere inquiry, by bowing down to them, by seeking knowledge. Pranipatena. So by bending down and bowing down and having humility and seeking the knowledge. Pariprashnena, with a sense of inquiry, asking questions, not blindly. So here he says, go to a guru, not blindly accepting what the guru says. Pariprashnena, I said pari is that all-round questioning, pariprashnena, all-round questioning, but sincere inquiry. It is like I said earlier also, we cannot approach this with a sense of like a CID inspector, like interrogation. So somebody who is interrogating another person, who is in a sense, who is in a higher pedestal, right? When the police is interrogating a criminal or a suspect, they are sitting in a higher position. They are trying to elicit answers out. But here, the spirit of inquiry and sincere inquiry is craving to know. You are asking for knowledge. You're asking questions so that you can improve your knowledge. So pariprashnena. So by thorough questioning and seeking and asking doubts, sevaya, by serving them. If you don't serve them, if you don't support, if you don't offer something, then it is difficult. So one has to approach with humility, as with a spirit of inquiry, with and service. Tattvadarshinaha, one who know reality, one who know the ultimate, the wise people. Jnaninaha, the wise. Tattvadarshinaha, jnaninaha, the wise people who have a complete picture of reality. Te to you jnanam upadekshanti. So they will impart that knowledge to you. So in ancient India, it was very common for the students who are learning something to go and live in the house of a teacher. And they would live there for many years, and they learned the path of the ultimate truth. In the case of somebody interested to learn music, they would go to and learn music all the time. If they're dancers, they'll go learn dance all the time. If it's painting, they learn painting. Whatever they like to learn, whatever the guru was very good at, they would go and learn. They would serve the guru. They attended to all his mundane needs, and they helped him in daily activities, which also inculcated the discipline in them. They learned how the guru would handle real life situations, not just the intellectual quest, not just the musical, knowledge or the spiritual knowledge. That is one thing. You go to a teacher to learn music or dance, you learn that skill. But when you spend more time with the guru, you also learn how they deal with tricky situations in daily life. And on the one hand, you had to serve the guru with humility. On the other hand, it was important, it was expected of you to ask sharp questions. It was expected of you to, not take things just blindly, but to question, to understand, and clarify all the doubts. Because if somebody explains something and asks you, did you understand it? If you just say, yeah, yeah, I get it, without actually knowing, it's no use. Your education is incomplete. So when you don't understand something, or when something is not clear, you raise questions, say, no, I didn't understand this, tell me once again. And a guru who does not encourage questioning is either kind of old school and knows that the answer to the question will come later, giving the guru benefit of the doubt, or that guru is insecure and doesn't know the answers himself or herself, right? So otherwise, why would they have a problem with any questions? Because if they know all the answers, they are very thorough, they will be very happy to answer the question, provided the question is posed with humility, right? If anybody, when you ask somebody with a tone of arrogance, or in a exalted, you're putting yourself in an exalted position, even a normal person in a normal conversation will hesitate to reply, or will find it very irritating to reply to your question. So then imagine the situation of the guru who's being asked by the student, right? Even in a casual conversation among equals, we feel little irritated when somebody is asking with a very, very, like a poking manner. When people ask questions, we get a little ticked off, right? So we can imagine the state of a guru where a student is asking impertinent questions and being irreverent and so on. So that is why the way in which you see the verse has been constructed so well. Pranipatena, pariprashnena, sevaya. So all the three are important. One is you are offering, like you're bowing down, and you're offering respect to the person for their wisdom. Pariprashnena, you are asking questions, and sevaya, you are serving them with humility. All these things are there. Then they will definitely impart that knowledge to you. So tad vidhi pranipatena,
तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन
pariprashnena sevaya,
परिप्रश्नेन सेवया
upadekshyanti te jnanam,
उपदेक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानं
jnaninas tattvadarshinaha.
ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः.
So this forms, a kind of sutra for any student wanting to approach anybody for learning, even in a university setting, or a classroom setting. A person who follows this basic thing, where they like to help the teacher in whatever way possible, they ask questions, and they are bowing down in reverence to the knowledge of the teacher, we find that naturally teachers will take a liking for such students who are sincere, who are not just blindly accepting whatever is said, and also trying to help in whatever way they can. So all these qualities are very, very important for students. There was a question. There was a question about how. One second. Let me just prepare this. Stop sharing. in the chat. I'm not able to find the chat. Yeah. How to block sensates. So again, we see a little bit of that in the sixth chapter, where he talks about meditation and so on. Basically, we try to be aware of the sensations caused by the sensates and the sense organs. So now, like I said, for example, when you say sensate, what are the sensates? Sound, smell, taste, sight, and texture. When we want to meditate, initially we try to, you know, sit in a quiet room in a slightly darker place. So initially it becomes easy, but later on, over a period of time, when one attains proficiency, they can meditate even in the middle of a busy square, in the middle of the street. Also, they can meditate. They can cut off mentally all these things. So it's a question of training in different ways to reduce this. But the first important thing is the awareness that this sensations can cause trouble, like we have seen in the second chapter. This brooding over sensations will lead to attachment, will lead to desire, will lead to anger, will lead to lack of reasoning and destruction. We've seen that very clearly. So the learning that indifference, learning the value of not being attached is very important. So good, thank you very much. We'll resume tomorrow and we'll finish the fourth chapter. And then hopefully we'll discuss a little bit about like a summary of that, and maybe that will spill over into the class after the weekend. So thank you so much. Om Tat Sat. Namaste.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumaji, for reciting today.
धन्यवाद. नमस्ते.